Thank you. Thank you so much for that warm introduction. Good morning, everyone. Isn't it a beautiful day in Dubai? And what better way to start the work week than with a fireside chat with Issam? I've been looking forward to this for some time, Issam. So nice to have you with us today. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. And again, salam alaikum and good morning, everyone.
So Dubai welcomed 10.2 million visitors from January to September this year. This is a remarkable recovery, but it's still far below the 12.2 million tourists during the same period of 2019. With this in mind, Issam, can you give us an overview of how Dubai stands as a tourism destination right now?
Well, I think if you look at the strategies that we had set out for ourselves, and I keep repeating this all the time because I want to make sure that all our colleagues from the industry are aligned with the same vision, which is to increase the number of visitors of Dubai, to become the #1 most visited city in the world. And this was back in 2013 when we announced this, and we were just coming off the back of a 10 million international visitor number. It was a big achievement for us at that point in time. So increasing the numbers, setting our sights to become the #1 was important. And then we talked about increasing length of stay, increasing repeat visitation, and then also increasing the spend within the city, contribution to the GDP. We managed to reach 16.73 million in 2019. Positioning us quite strongly in #4, getting closer and closer because our growth was much faster than the ones above us. And we were well underway starting the 2020, first 2 months of 2020, with again, great record-breaking numbers for us as well. But of course, pandemic hit, everything went to standstill. And still, you can see a lot of areas in the world are still starting to recover. They haven't fully recovered yet, especially when it comes to the industry side of things. Airlines, for example, and others are still trying to catch up and recruit to keep up with the demands. You can see that the hotels are doing much better than they were last year and the year before that, and we're working very closely hand in hand with them to ensure that we can achieve our own vision, supported by the private sector, to reach those numbers. And of course, if you compare the 10 million, the 10.2 million now to the 12.2, might not seem big, but compared to the rest of the world, we're doing well. And if you look at the occupancy rates today, we stand at roughly around 71% compared to a 62% last year and around 73% in 2019. But bear in mind that in 2019, the 73% was on 119,000 hotel rooms. Today we have 142,000 plus hotel rooms. So we're doing well in that sense. Again, our ambitions are much bigger than this. But bear in mind, markets like China, for example, haven't opened up yet. And they're a significant market for us, plus many others. So we're still confident that we can hit the numbers that we've set for ourselves. The UAE strategy has been announced by Sheikh Mohammed recently, 2031, aiming to reach 40 million tourists annually. So I think there is a big ambition, UAE-wide, as well as, of course, Dubai-wide.
I want to talk a little bit more about hotel occupancy in a few minutes, but first, can you tell us your projections for Q4 with the World Cup happening, and if by some stroke of luck China comes back online next year, your projections for 2023?
Our aim is to reach where we were at in 2019, to be honest. I mean, we're still pushing ambitiously towards that. But there are many factors that play into that. China being one, of course, as you mentioned. Some indications say that they might open up before the end of the year, but others are saying that it might be Q1, the first maybe month or two of 2023. Nevertheless, the diversified market approach that we have was key part of our strategy and the success so far to ensure that we will be able to activate many other markets. So since post-COVID, I would say, as we were slowly recovering, we managed to open up a lot more opportunities from markets such as France, Netherlands, Egypt. I think they were low-hanging fruits, but because of the tremendous growth that we had seen in other areas, we didn't get a chance to focus on them or give them as much attention as we should have. And now we've seen that come back in a much stronger way. So building on that, creating a much bigger and a stronger foundation gives us the depth that is needed for this diversified market approach. But at the same time, of course, it's making sure that we are readily available with the right packages at the right time. Currently, with the growth in numbers of hotel rooms, alhamdulillah, I can say that demand still outstrip supply, so that's a good place to be. But at the same time, we shouldn't price ourselves outside the market, because there is a point in time where we will have shoulder seasons, shoulder periods of time. And again, I can confidently and proudly say that the way that we've structured this private and public sector relationship, we have constant dialogue with our partners, creating packages and offers that are in market at the right time to offer these deals. So again, making people realize that it might be expensive today because there are many events happening, there's many reasons that drives the price up, but there are just around the corner other offers that you can come and enjoy and experience Dubai as well.
And tell us about some specific initiatives you're taking to promote Dubai outside of your top 5 source markets of the UK, India, Russia, Oman, and Saudi.
So for us, what we do is we always have the three-tiered approach. So we've got the awareness campaigns, we've got the consideration campaigns, and conversion campaigns. Awareness campaigns usually will be global. So the campaigns that Gemma alluded to earlier with Zac Efron and Jessica Alba, and prior to that, we had the ones with Gwyneth Paltrow, Kate Hudson, and Zoe Saldana. And we've always had, and the Shah Rukh Khan one, for example, there are many series of that came out. Those are usually the global awareness campaigns that will be overarching and help us at least instigate dialogue, instigate conversation, and pique curiosity. And then what we do is, of course, everything that we execute needs to be data-driven. So we make sure that there's a lot of research that sits behind that. We do a lot of brand lift studies as well to ensure that we are getting the kind of results that we were seeking when we first set out the campaign. But of course, besides that, what we also do is we then look at market-specific campaigns as well. Because sometimes, let's say, certain celebrities or certain campaigns might not be relevant to specific target audiences in specific demographics. So we create another one that kind of complements that. Maybe carries the same message but different cast and so on. Then we go on to the consideration. And from a consideration perspective, this is where our trade side of our team is focused on, where we build stronger relationship across all the markets. When we launched the strategy, as I mentioned, we had 10 million visitors. Back then, we had 6 or 7 traditionally strong markets that we were focused on that would give us the lion's share of the tourists and guests into the city. But since then, we've changed that quite a bit. Today, we're active in over 50 markets. So there's a huge change in the way that we present Dubai and the destination. And the trade relationship that we've built, again, it's not bespoke, because if you look at certain more mature markets, you will have that there are 3, 4, 5 very strong players who might be able to give you over 80% reach within their space. But at the same time, other markets are quite fragmented. So then we have to have multiple relationships, and we're gauging them real time to know which one's giving us the best results. And also, this doesn't work in isolation. We work very closely with our industry partners from the city across the world. So even when we go on trade shows, there's a lot of introductions that are done both ways, and we're making sure that we are leveraging each other's relationships for the best result for Dubai.
And how is this impacting the hospitality sector? You mentioned average hotel occupancy rates from Jan to September this year at 70.8% versus 73.4% in the same period of 2019. How would you say this is really impacting the performance of the hospitality sector?
Again, what's good, I think in this sense, I have to honestly give credit to the partners in the industry, because unfortunately, for us, we set the bar very high, right? And wherever I travel around the world, everyone, especially now post-COVID, talk about the service levels and the experience that they have in Dubai, from the airline to the airport, all the way to the hotels and restaurants and so on, right? So the problem is that even if that level is impacted even so slightly, right, which will still be better than most places that they'd be visiting, their expectation is to compare it to where Dubai was, and that's where we struggle. But alhamdulillah, I mean, the partners that we have in the industry have really made sure that that repeat visitation aspect is something that they're focusing quite heavily on, which is important, because again, if that service level and the experience that people are having are done well or executed well, we will see the results. And we are seeing that, because length of stay is increasing. That's another key area that we focus on. And repeat visitation is increasing. We are 25% repeat in Dubai, right? And 25% repeat, the way we calculate it is repeat within 12 months, which is very high. Most people calculate repeat in 24 months. So it's somewhere that we're very confident of the product that we have to offer and the service that we're delivering. But of course, it puts the pressure back on us to ensure that we maintain that, because we want to make sure that that 25% with the growth in number of tourists still continues to grow as well.
And with the rising number of tourists, there's also a corresponding rise in the number of hotel rooms in Dubai. So how should hoteliers deal with this increased competition in the market? How much is too much?
Now, I think if we look at it from another perspective, a lot of the hotel operators are actually operating more and more hotels in Dubai. I think they're managing the rise in demand themselves as well, because they're aware of what's missing, the opportunities that exist as well. So again, we don't encourage any of this in isolation. Everything that we do is done in partnership. And this partnership, for example, was very clear during COVID, where usually we have scheduled meetings with the industry at least quarterly, and then we have twice a year the city briefing sessions where we update them on last year's strategy and campaigns and where we're at, and also talking about what's coming up in the future, so make sure that we're all aligned and have the right offers in place. But at the same time, what we do is we have one-to-one dialogue with all of our partners, as and when needed, and called upon by themselves as well, to understand what the gaps are in the industry, what the demand, where the demand lies, and what opportunities we're trying to create, and aligning with them to make sure that they are ready and prepared to take on these opportunities as well. So again, because the demand is high, they can see it, they can feel it, and of course, we have the stats to prove that as well. So we work with our partners very closely to ensure that we are putting the hotels, putting properties and rooms up in the right place, in the right locations, at the right price points to cater to the right demographics that we're going after.
Let's talk about the global situation right now. There are so many challenges facing the world, but people are still spending on travel. So what is Dubai doing to ensure that it capitalizes on this and takes its share of the discretionary spend that people are willing to actually spend on tourism right now?
I think over here, there's an opportunity and then there's a risk as well. So the opportunity is that the buying patterns when it comes to holidays and stuff is changing quite a bit. You can see that in some cases where there was a lot more group travel, people are moving towards the FIT a lot more now, which is good as well. But at the same time, we cannot neglect the group, because that brings in serious business for us as well. But we're trying to stay abreast of all of the different changes and dynamics that are happening, because the way that we communicate and engage with the end user and the guest is quite different. But at the same time, what happens is that we can see that from our communication, our marketing, that people are looking for experiences. People want to stay longer in a city now. They might travel less frequently, but spend longer time and want a lot more quality from that trip. So what we've done is we focused on the infrastructure side of the destination. Also, in some cases, highlighting things that already existed. So for example, over the past few years, we've started to change the perception of people that Dubai is not just high-end and high-end luxury, but in fact, we played on luxury and we said it could be also affordable luxury. And that has helped us quite a bit as well. Then we talked about cultural travel. A lot of people thought that Dubai did the new city really well, but they didn't realize that Dubai had a lot of cultural offerings as well. So we promoted that side of the destination. Gastronomy is something that there was a lot of investment done by the hotels as well as the homegrown concepts. And we had amazing, and people who live in Dubai take it for granted, and we've really enjoyed the experience of gastronomy in Dubai. But for the past few years, we've been working on getting Michelin to Dubai. And we finally did. And they launched the Dubai Guide as the first guide in the entire region. And obviously we were very proud of that. And from just the first assessment that they did, we had 69 restaurants listed, 11 stars given, 2 two-star restaurants, including 1 green star restaurant, which is a sustainable restaurant, that there's no wastage within the kitchens as well. So these are amazing, amazing messages that are going out, and also very, very aligned with the way people are choosing the next destination that they want to travel to.
And Dubai Tourism has launched its inaugural Dubai Gastronomy Industry Report. What insights and data can you share with us from that report, just touching on the Michelin star rating that you mentioned?
I think what's great is that Dubai's restaurant experience is quite diversified. First of all, it's a good celebration of the fact that we do have more than 85% of our population made up of 200 different nationalities. And you can see that from the different restaurants and experiences that you can have within the city. So that's key for us, right? But at the same time, what's also important is we do have the big brand names, global brand names that everyone's familiar with and they travel the world to experience. But we also have homegrown concepts, so many of them. And many of them have also been listed now on Bib Gourmand to make sure that people realize that there are affordable eateries with great experiences within the city as well. So those are the kind of things that we're focusing on quite regularly. So for us, it's not just making sure that we have the brand names, making sure that we're supporting the SME, and encouraging a lot more investment done within that sector, bringing in more tourists so that they can experience the city from one end to the other through the food journey as well, and also highlighting that across the different communications that we do with different price points as well. Because one thing that has happened or has changed recently since November 2021 is the merger of two departments, right? So I talked about the key four KPIs that we focus on as a Department for Tourism. But since the merger of the Department of Economy and the Department of Tourism, today the other statistic that we're focusing on is not just to become the #1 most visited city or repeated visited city, but also to become the #1 city to live in. So everything that we do from a tourist perspective is honestly encouraging. And I'm telling you this anecdotally. When I have a lot of friends and family visiting from abroad, when they see what's happening in Dubai, they see the energy, they see the buzz, they see the safety and security, they see the infrastructure of the schools and the education system, the health system and so on, they start asking, so how can one move here? What do we need to do? So all the new visa policies that we've launched, everything that we've done is to capitalize on that opportunity and to encourage more people to relocate to Dubai.
So as a tourism leader in a coveted international destination, you have a huge personal responsibility to your emirate and to its livelihood. And we all suffered during the pandemic, but from your personal experience, what lessons did you take from the pandemic, and how will you apply them to future crises if they arise?
The one thing that we definitely learned, and this is again, I have to give credit to the leadership here, because I think Sheikh Mohammed's vision was always to create a private sector mentality within the government and always trying to make the city entrepreneurial, right? And to stay young. Staying young means staying hungry. As you know, classically, when an organization gets too big, it almost becomes a big ship with a small rudder. It's too difficult to make any changes, too many decisions, and so on and so forth. But that agility is what we had applied in tourism when we first started. And that diversified approach and making sure that every decision can be made very quickly and getting to the decision makers is as easy as possible. I think Dubai is a true example of that. And I think there's still a lot for us to learn from ourselves, if anything, and from the private sector as well, to ensure that we stay ahead of the game. And I think that creating that dialogue or those channels where people can actually access decision makers and making sure that if personally I receive a call from a request related to a completely different department within Dubai's government structure, that doesn't mean that I have to just hand them over to somebody else, but make sure that I personally call individuals over there, make sure that the connection happens and follow that through. Because we always preach the Dubai Inc. approach. We always preach that Dubai is one organization, one entity, and one company, and we have to see it through. So from the pandemic, that agility is what gave Dubai the edge and the ability to open up before anybody else. We shut down in March 2020 before anybody else did. And by May 2020, we had opened up again with new processes, new policies in place, making sure that safety security is top of mind and everything executed, again, with the full support of the private sector to make sure that that execution is being followed through. And by July 2020, we had enough confidence to open up, and not only open up, but never close down again. So that shows you what we can do if we really think together properly and work in that entrepreneurial spirit and allow agility into our everyday life.
Let's talk a little bit about Dubai sustainable tourism. The private and the public sector are working together in this strategy. How are you implementing sustainability across your initiatives?
So what we've done is, of course, now we proudly are hosting COP28 next year. And again, for us, that is off the back of several initiatives that have been put into place by the government, many between the private and public sector, a lot of big players from I would say the global brands in the world are doing almost like incubation models in Dubai, testing a lot of things within the desert climates over here. So there's a lot of projects that are already being done that you'll hear about soon. But what we've done is, a few years ago, we launched an initiative from our side, which is from a sustainability side and green awards that Dubai Tourism had launched to encourage the hotels to start taking steps towards being more sustainable and being more environmentally friendly. And for us, that was a step-by-step approach. Our goal is, of course, to work towards the 2050 agenda and making sure that Dubai and the UAE becomes carbon neutral. But in order to do that, rather than come down with a mandate that forces everyone to make those changes, it's important to educate the audience and the market and bring them along. And that's why, by introducing the awards, it was important to give them the steps to understand exactly what changes can be made, what small changes can be made that can have a big impact, and recognizing them year on year, before we slowly started to introduce new measures and new policies in place, which, to be honest with you, many of our partners from the private sector had already implemented during that process as well. And I think also from another side, the launch of Dubai Can, right? That is, again, not just working on a corporate level, but making sure that even the consumers at their level understand the importance of such a thing. And what was amazing to us is that the community embraced it immediately. So what we launched was, the idea was simple: reduce the single-use plastics in the hotels and personal use as much as possible as well. And then the Dubai Can initiative was to get sponsors from the private and public sector to get water fountains across the city to make it easier for people to refill at those stations. Hotels took that on board. So they created water stations across their hotels, but across different floors as well, removed plastic bottles from the rooms and put refillable bottles instead, and encouraging people to, it's almost like a gift to take away, but at the same time, they can refill the bottles as well. And some hotels took the step further and invested in bottling plants as well, and moved away from single-use plastics. And the goal was to reduce the bottles by, I think, 1 million in 12 months. We managed to achieve 3.5 million reduction in 6 months. So again, it shows you the impact that had and the potential that it has going forward as well.
We're running a bit short on time, but we could talk to Issam all day. Just one final question for you to close. What are the top 3 travel trends you see right now in the tourism sector, and how are you using technology and innovation to capitalize on these trends?
Well, there's several trends right now that again, because technology is evolving so quickly, and also if you look at the younger generation, there are a lot of changes in their behaviors and their patterns as well. So for us, technology, of course, will play a fundamental role in the way that we engage with them. So we need to also be clear, because there are 2 sides to this. So we cannot move away completely to a tech-led world that disconnects them from the human touch, because at the end of the day, travel, that's one of the most important parts of travel. And when you look at the business travel side of things, a lot of people thought that conferences are a thing of the past and everything's going to become via screens and teleconferencing and so on and so forth. But once we actually did shut down, the whole world went into that lockdown, the minute the travel trade came back, or in general conferences came back, if people could hug, they would, because they missed that physical interaction and being together with people and meeting them face to face. But what it did do is it helped us quickly ride on the bandwagon of using technology and making it a mainstay as part of the conference offering. So today, almost all of the conferences have become hybrid. So people who genuinely cannot make it at least can attend via the tech solutions that are available today, but it will not replace the personal. Same thing when it comes to hotel check-ins. A lot of people were working towards no receptions, no counters, and you can just do everything via your phone, and you can even get your key card handed to you as into your wallet, and so on and so forth. But again, a lot of people are saying, no, I don't want to disconnect from that personal interaction. But we are trying to introduce the 2, because business people might come in for a very short stay. So for them, every second counts. And it's not that experience that they're looking for versus a guest who's coming in for a holiday and wants to interact with the reception, with the concierge, and ask questions about the city and so on and so forth. So we're trying to find that perfect balance between the 2 and making sure that Dubai still remains at the cutting edge, but not forgetting where we started from. Because at the end of the day, being warm and hospitable is part of this region's culture. So we want to make sure that that stays as a main integral part of what we have to offer.
Absolutely, and we're certain that the Dubai hospitality sector will continue to see growth in the months and the years ahead. Thank you so much for joining us today, Issam Kazim. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.